Room SD 342 inside the Dirksen Senate Office Building is normally a space for routine oversight, but on July 29th, the atmosphere was electric. Senator Rand Paul sat at the center of the dais, gavel in hand, demanding answers about the government's pandemic response. Before we examine this confrontation, a quick thank you to our sponsor, Shasta Unfiltered. Scan the QR code to support their honest local reporting. In the witness chair sat Dr. Anthony Fauci. He bypassed the usual pleasantries and launched a direct attack, accusing the chairman of an obsessive, slanderous campaign aimed at putting him behind bars. Then, on the advice of his attorneys, Fauci invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, refusing to answer any questions. Here is why that silence is so baffling. Pleading the Fifth is a shield against federal prosecution, but this specific witness should theoretically have nothing left to fear. In January 2025, President Joe Biden issued a broad, preemptive pardon covering any federal offenses related to Fauci's official duties over the past several years. The Supreme Court established the rules for this exact scenario back in 1896 in a case called Brown v. Walker. The ruling dictates that if a valid pardon removes the realistic threat of a federal conviction, the witness is treated as if the offense never happened. Therefore, they lose the right to plead the Fifth. Choosing to remain silent anyway signals a massive, lingering legal vulnerability. It points to a risk that even a preemptive presidential pardon could not erase. The subpoena was triggered by the sudden release of more than 1,000 pages of Fauci's private, contemporaneous diary entries. This timeline tracks the startling admissions from those documents. On January 26, 2020, he wrote that the Wuhan market, quote, was not the source, it was the amplifier. By February 1st, he recorded that scientists on a high-level proximal origin call believed the deliberate insertion of a furin cleavage site into the virus was a distinct possibility. But for the subsequent years, across more than 200 briefings and sworn congressional testimonies, he presented a unified, confident narrative that firmly dismissed those exact origins. The leak of these documents fractured that established timeline, forcing the Senate to demand an explanation for the glaring discrepancies under oath. Senator Paul firmly rejected the blanket claim of privilege. He ordered Fauci's lawyer removed from the room and warned that obstructing a congressional investigation violates the law, promising severe repercussions. The refusal to answer serves as a calculated defense strategy. Speaking under oath right now creates an entirely new legal event. If he attempts to reconcile his past sworn statements with the newly exposed private diaries, he risks triggering fresh perjury or false statement charges today. A 2025 pardon cannot protect against a crime committed during a current congressional hearing. There is also a secondary trap. Presidential pardons only apply to federal offenses. They offer zero protection against potential investigations launched by state-level prosecutors. The Fifth Amendment was deployed here to survive the immediate, compounding legal hazards created by those leaked diaries. Taking the Fifth is a fundamental constitutional right, and legally it is not proof of guilt. But in the context of public oversight, it leaves critical national questions entirely unanswered. We still do not know why scientific alarms regarding gain-of-function research were suppressed from the public. Congressional oversight exists to build an accurate historical record. When the central figure in the pandemic response declines to speak, that record remains incomplete. The Congressional Committee still maintains the full authority to pursue formal contempt proceedings, summon additional witnesses, and demand further documentation. The July 29th hearing failed to resolve the heavy contradictions between the private diaries and the public testimony. Instead, it permanently highlighted them. The search for accountability in the pandemic response has crossed into a complex, untested legal phase. To follow the next steps of this investigation, like this video, share it, and hit subscribe so you don't miss our future updates. For more in-depth reporting and honest news coverage on this unfolding story, visit Shasta Unfiltered online.